I'm Raymond Douglas and welcome to my man cave. Well, rather toolshed, or my special place of reflection. The Inside Out Perspective takes a look at life's challenges and its effects and asks one simple question: what race are you running? Good day and welcome to another episode of the Inside Out Perspective. And again, we're sitting in the rain in the Western Cape in Africa, and that's just the nature of our season. So, this week I got a very interesting comment from one of our local Muslims who are following my channel, and we discuss things every now and again. He made the comment that I'm like a blind man fumbling around in the dark looking for a switch for a broken light bulb. And I thought about that for a moment, and I realized that as this information comes out and gets made available from people like Dr. Dan Brubaker, it must be devastating to realize that everything you've been taught and told is truth, is in actual fact based on a lie. But even more devastating is that the scholars know this and they never said anything. And I'm so glad that the biblical text criticism was never hidden away, that it was always brought to the front and the questions were asked and interacted, and it went through the process and has gone through that process and is still today going through that process where people challenge the text and the scriptures, and the more it's done, the more body and unity is found within the body of manuscript evidence and historical evidence and archaeological evidence for the Christian faith. Yet this is not so when we have a look at Islam. So, for the 1.8 billion Muslims out there which are feeling a little bit on the edge, like a blind man fiddling in a dark room looking for a broken switch for a light bulb, I fully understand, and my heart goes out to you. And I just ask you to interact with the evidence, explore the evidence for yourself, and find your own solution. Because right now, you are not going to get the truth from your scholars. Why do I say that? Let's have a look at a quick summary of what's happened over the last couple of weeks. So first of all, we had Dr. Shabir Ally make subtle hints on his YouTube channel, Let the Quran Speak, that the Quran is not perfectly preserved. He didn't quite say that, but he made subtle hints which led to certain events happening. The second thing that happened is Dr. Yasir Qadhri on his channel expressed his personal emotions and his dilemma with specifically the Qadrat and Aruf, and saying that Muslims on a scholarly level are just learned to regurgitate what they taught, and when you dig deeper into it, were his words, that there are no answers. With regard to that statement, Adnan Rashid countered that, and he went into, we've got the perfect Quran, and we have it in the textual evidence of the Birmingham manuscript. His whole 33 verses out of the 6,236 verses in the Quran, he goes to the Birmingham manuscript as his fundamental truth that the Quran has been preserved. Forget about what's in those two folios or 33 verses. Is this the basis of which Islam is found on, those 33 verses? But what's even more devastating to me is if you have a look at those two channels and what they actually said, both Rashid and Yasir actually agree with each other. And this is why I say so. Here's the first clip.
if you talk about these things, the Dr. Qadhi keeps saying that I don't want to be explicit. I don't want to be explicit. If you don't want to be explicit, don't talk about these matters, because you're confusing people out there. People don't know what you're talking about. But people don't know, the awam, the masses don't know what you're talking about. So what Dr. Yasir Qadhi is talking about, as I understand him, there are holes in the standard Islamic narrative about, the relationship between ahruf and the qira'at. Okay? But guess what? Is this new? We have ulama, Islamic scholars, who have over 30 opinions about the nature of ahruf.
And listen to the agreement.
This issue of ahruf and qira'at has troubled the ummah from the very beginning of time. It's nothing new. And there are 15 opinions about this. None of them fully answer all of the questions that are raised. Some of them answer more than others.
So effectively, what has this created? This has created a major dilemma within the ranks of the Muslims out there, the masses. And thus this type of comment of a blind man fumbling around in a dark room looking for a switch for a broken light bulb. But in actual fact, that's the expression of the feelings and devastation inside a Muslim's heart. Because they don't understand this, because it's been hid from them. So here's a simple analogy of understanding, so not only the Muslims can understand this out there, or the Muslims who don't have the insight, as well as us Christians who are trying to grapple with this but not too sure how to present it. The original Arabic script did not have those diacritical markers. Those diacritical markers are essential to be able to show the difference in dialects. Now, let's go back to Islamic tradition. Now, Islamic tradition tells us in two hadiths that Abu Bakr had the Quran written down directly after Muhammad died. So the Quran, according to Islamic tradition, was written down within 2 years of Muhammad's death, and it was put into safekeeping. Then later on, 20 years later, Uthman, because of different recitations of the Quran, wanted it rewritten down again. So he called a team of people together and he had it rewritten down again. And the first fundamental point he made in the hadith is it needs to be written down in the Qurashi dialect. That is the dialect of Muhammad's home tribe. So, according to tradition, that is what we have. But he couldn't have actually done that because there were no diacritical markers at the time. The language only developed into diacritical markers 150 years later. And this is the dilemma of what Rashid and Yasir are talking about. That there's no basic fundamental. And that agrees with the Islamic tradition, because the Islamic tradition says that there were 7 different dialects of recitation. And let's accept that there are 7 different recitations of it. It doesn't matter if the words are different or changed or whatever, there's 7 different dialects. But another 3 were added later. And as we can see today, there are 37 different Arabic Qurans on the market today which you can go and buy. Hort Tush has gone and done this homework. They're there. They physically in her hand for inspection, and they've been doing analysis between the two, comparing them to the Hafs Quran. And that's the Quran which is held up today by Muslims around the world and said this has been perfectly preserved. This is exactly the same as what Muhammad recited when he received the revelation from Allah. And that's a great story. But have a look at who Hafs is. Hafs was not even brought up in Mecca or Medina. Secondly, Hafs wasn't even alive when Muhammad was around. So have a look at the dates of this Hafs text. This Hafs text is in the 8th and 9th century. And that is a problem. Because where did this dialect then come from? And the problem is that it's not in the Qurashi dialect. So the Quran we have, or Muslims holding in their hand today, is not the Qurashi dialect, because it was not written in the Qurashi dialect, because Hafs was not a Qurashi Muslim or Arab. And that's a huge dilemma. It's kind of like me saying, or finding out that the New Testament manuscript was not written in Greek or Aramaic. It was written in French. What? So let's just discount the problem with the dialects. Because that comes, as J. Smith says, from the 8th and the 9th century. So let's leave that in the 8th and the 9th century. Let's go back and look at what the tradition of Islam says. And the tradition of Islam says that it doesn't matter how many different dialects there are. This is effectively what Yasir and Adnan are saying. Is that it doesn't matter what the dialects say. And it doesn't matter if there's 7 or there's 10 or there's 37 or there's 20. Forget about that, because it is all based on the same original Arabic text without the diacritical markings, which is the Razam text, the consonantal text, the basic text without that. And this is what we need to look at. So, just in summary, the Quran was written in the Razam, or the continental text, without the pointers, and at a later stage, the dialects were put in to stop the confusion. And that's all great. Let's accept that. The question is, where is the Razam text? Now, Muslims, or Islam, has 6 options here. Basically 6 options. Effectively 9, from what I understand. But they're basically 6 major texts, or manuscripts they can go to. Razam texts which they can go to. And here is the problem. When we expect those Razam texts, or those consonantal texts, there are problems. In my last episode, we had a look at the Sana manuscript. And on one page in Surah 9, there is an alif which is added in the margin. So somewhere along the line, there's an addition put in. In the middle of the text, the word Allah is added to the text. And then right down at the bottom of the page, which is the big dilemma, a word is missing. And that word is 7 times. It might sound ridiculous, but how come if in the original text it's not there, and suddenly the word 7 times appears in the Hafs text, which is the perfect transmission from the original? Who added that word in? And where did that word come from? Why is it not the same as the manuscript? Or we can have a look at the person who was correcting the manuscript didn't correct the 7 times and add it in there. And that is the issue. And these issues are coming to the forefront daily. Dr. Dan Brubaker has found 4,000 consonantal errors, in other words, words missing, words taken out, etc., just in the Razam manuscripts. Adnan Rashid made the claim that we've got it, we've got everything, we've got the perfect text. But where is it? When are you going to show it to us? When's it going to come to the forefront? Or is it like your personal coin collection which proves the Quran's veracity, which is hidden underneath your couch and hidden away from society and the Muslim masses? And this is the problem. The Muslim masses need to know. And the only people doing the homework are people like Dr. Dan Brubaker, J. Smith and his crew. And it's important. It's important to understand this. And it's important because it reflects on your eternity. So I urge you to interact with the evidence. Stop denying it. Stop making the clever comments because you are too embarrassed of the corrupt Quran and fabrication of your faith. So the question remains, which race are you running?